A beautiful evening to you today, the 23rd day of March 2022. It's 16 minutes gone past 4 p.m. West African time. And as always, you're listening to Lagoon Radio. We're broadcasting live from the Archbishop's Palace in Marina, Lagos. And it is another exciting episode on Discussion Hour with your girl, Jennifer Jibril. As always, I have interesting, amazing topics and amazing guests always in the studio with me. Yes, we have one amazing guest in the studio today. I'm just trying to resist the urge to shalaye, but eventually I will do it. But yes, so you know how we do it. You can send in your questions, your comments via our WhatsApp handle, or you can even call the studio line. This discussion hour is a roundtable discussion, live discussion, of which you can join from any part of the world at the comfort of your telephone. So yeah, you can join the conversation by dialing our studio line 08189 Lagoon, and that is 08189524666. 08189524666. You can also reach us on WhatsApp, drop your comments, drop your questions, and we'll be ready to take them. You can join us on Facebook. We're live right now at www.facebook.com/LagoonRadio Nigeria. We're also live on YouTube at LagoonTV. Yes, you can follow the conversation on Instagram and on Twitter at LagoonRadio NG. Yes, once again, it's Discussion Hour. My name is Jennifer Jibril. We'll go on a quick music break, and when we're back, we'll introduce our guest and then our topic. Keep it locked down. You're welcome back from that music break, and before the first song we played, we got to Pray by Alicia Keys, and the song you're listening to right now is Power of Niger by Tuba. But it's the discussion hour with Jennifer Jibril. As I said, I promised I was going to introduce my guest to you after we're back from that break. You know, I'm not going back on my words. Okay, so first, our topic. Today we'll be looking at civil rights and civic responsibilities. And I have my guest in front of me, a legal practitioner. Yes, my guest is a legal practitioner, actually, in the person of Barrister Shalom Okeke. You're welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
It's good to have you, and thank you for accepting to share your knowledge with us.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so we'll go straight into it. Before the questions, I'll just take a little bit of my note. So there is a little definition I have on civic responsibility and civil rights. Please correct me if I'm wrong. This is not my field. That's why you're the expert here. Okay. So civil rights are an essential component of democracy. They guarantee social opportunities and protection under the law, regardless of race, religion, or other characteristics. And examples are the rights to vote, the rights to fair trial, the right to government services, the right to public schools, the right to healthcare, and just to mention but a few, correct?
Very correct.
Okay, and I also have here that civic responsibility are tax bestowed upon citizens by the government to ensure a balance between protection and allegiance.
That's right.
Okay, so at least I'm right on this one. Yes, you can also join the conversation via our WhatsApp handle on WhatsApp phone number. I refuse distraction. 08189 Lagoon. That is 08189524666. And you can follow us on Facebook. We're live, and on YouTube as well. On Facebook, Lagoon Radio Nigeria, and on YouTube, it's LagoonTV. So the questions for you are: we would like to know. Tell us, what is the difference between civic responsibility and civic competence?
Okay, thank you. I would want to start by talking about civic responsibility.
Okay.
We cannot talk about responsibility without talking about right.
Okay.
On the other hand, and this brings us to something a philosopher, John Locke, calls the social contract. And according to him, he says the social contract is basically where you have a group of persons who, of course, have their wills, have their power, but then they come together to assign or delegate to another person by a means which could either be a voting or election or appointment. But the point is, this contract or agreement has these persons handing over their rights or their wills to another who is
handing over their rights or their wills to another person,
who is going to in turn protect them. But then on the other hand, they also have a duty of allegiance. They have a duty of submission to that person. And in our current era, we can relate that to be the process of voting, which we do. Now, bringing it back to civic responsibility. After the whole process, there are certain obligations, like you said, tasks. There are certain duties which, as citizens, we owe to the government. So it's a two-way thing. The contract, just like every agreement, it's a two-way thing. Both parties have consideration which they furnish. So the government, in one hand, has the duty to protect and provide these services, but in turn, we have our obligations. One, of course, is allegiance. Apart from allegiance, we also have other obligations like promotion of the Constitution, protection of the Constitution, abiding by the laws. Secondly, payment of taxes. Obviously, payment of taxes is one very important responsibility which many persons tend to evade.
I don't think I would permit me to say this. Yes. I don't think any Nigerian know anything known as tax because if it was abroad, I mean, they take payment of tax really seriously.
Yes. The thing is, today is not about taxes. But then we have direct and indirect ways in which these taxes are paid. And some other responsibilities. Of course, voting is a civic responsibility. Next year is presidential election, and it's not just enough to go on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook.
And we call them online
online activists.
Online
whatever
activists
they want to do there
is online.
Now the responsibility means you have to do the right thing. Right. Get your PVC, register, and actually vote. There are quite a number of responsibilities, but these responsibilities stem from the social contract. Now, coming to competence. Competence cuts across responsibility, but then competence comes before responsibility. Civic competence comes from the knowledge and commitment of what you have to do. So with civic competence, we're talking about the knowledge, we're talking about, and it's not just knowledge on the face level, but then understanding the import of these obligations, the import of these duties which we owe. And then responsibility comes in actually doing it. So using the same voting as an instance. Civic competence will mean I am informed, I am knowledgeable as to the fact that to actually make a change come next year, I need to get my PVC, I need to register, I need to vote. The knowledge and then the determination to actually do the needful is competence. But then I have the responsibility to actually move, to actually do what is supposed to be done. And so that's the slight difference I see between the two.
Okay, so I would also like to know, this is just a quick question. So it is our responsibility to actually vote, right?
Yes, it is.
Now, it is, I don't know, this is just some things playing in my head. So the fact that it is my responsibility to vote, it is also my right to decline not to vote. So is it okay for me to say that I don't want to vote as much as it is my responsibility?
Yes, actually.
Okay. But this is me not performing a part of my responsibility.
Yes. And that is where the whole thing of good governance comes in. The whole discussion around democracy and good governance. If you have the foundation I gave is that it's a contract.
Yes.
So if one part to have a contract that is a good one that ends in a successful manner in which both parties intended, both parties need to fulfill their obligations.
The obligations, of course.
So if as a citizen you fail to vote, then there's going to be a problem.
Yes, true.
Because it's going to affect the working of democracy in the bigger picture. It's going to affect the working of good governance and quite a lot number of things. But as to whether you can actually choose not to, yes, you can. I mean, no one is going to police you. But at the end of the day, the implication will definitely suffice.
Oh wow, amazing. Okay, I think you actually promised you were going to school me. I'm getting schooled. Okay, so okay, this is a succeeding question.
Okay.
Democracy, does it require any form of competence to perform? I think you've answered a little bit of it, but I would like you to share more light on it.
Okay, so I see these three as a progression.
Okay.
A progression. Of course, there are quite a number of definitions on what democracy is. You have government of the people, by the people,
and for the people.
Yes, that is the most common of it. You have definitions like democracy is where you have a group of persons who come together to elect representatives who are going to either directly or indirectly make rules, make regulations, and cater for them. Now, democracy, according to me, in this triangle between civic competence, responsibility, and democracy is the end line. So that even before we achieve democracy, there should be competence first.
Okay.
In that the parties, by parties now I mean the citizens and the government themselves, understand the nature of the social contract, the nature of what democracy itself entails. Because especially in Africa, we have that thing of, well, we like to cry democracy, but we do not actually understand what it is, besides the definition, of course, of the people for the people.
That's if most of them actually know that particular definition.
So competence is the first thing. You have the knowledge, you understand the implication of acting on the knowledge, and then responsibility is doing it, right?
Yeah.
You know you're supposed to get your PVC, you're supposed to vote, and then you eventually vote. And then now democracy comes in at the end, because the truth is civic competence is very crucial to a working democracy. If you remove civic competence, you cannot have democracy as it should be. Yeah. So it's very essential.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much for shedding that very important light on this aspect. Okay. Now, the responsibilities and rights of a person, does it change over time? Do they differ with age? I mean, I'm an adult, so as a child, my rights and my responsibilities, were they different from what I'm entitled to or what I should do right now?
Rights and responsibilities. I'm going to kind of split them.
Okay.
Starting with the responsibilities. And so as to whether civic responsibilities shift or whether they change by virtue of age or whether age affects the responsibility, it depends on the responsibility in question.
Okay.
For instance, if we're talking about voting, let's say. Obviously, the law is very clear. You have to be 18 and above. You should have attained majority.
Yes.
But then if we talk about a responsibility like, let's say, assisting or cooperating with law enforcement agencies. You have maybe the police, and then they come and they're making some investigation, and then they're asking a few questions. The law actually says you have a duty to cooperate with them. I know it's funny, but yes.
Yes, I actually just remember that part of the law that says that, but I mean, I don't think most of us have that portion registered in any part of.
So you have the responsibility. Responsibility like this do not, even if you're 18, 17 or 16 or 15, you can. So the point is, it depends. We can't make a general opinion here. It depends on the responsibility. One, it depends on the law creating that responsibility. Where a law creates a responsibility and the makers of the law intend age to be a threshold, it will definitely be there. But in the absence of that, age should not. Then coming to rights, we have fundamental rights and we have civil rights. Civil rights are the ones which you've mentioned,
Yeah.
like being entitled to basic amenities from the
Yes.
government.
Schooling, hospital.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Those are civil
Civil
rights.
rights. Yeah.
We also have fundamental rights.
Okay.
Fundamental rights now are rights that are inherent
Okay.
and inalienable. Inherent in the sense that by virtue of the fact that you were born, you have them.
Can I know an example of this?
If you, for instance, right to life, for example, you have it's funny because
No, I think that's default.
default, yes, but that it's a right.
Okay.
Right to freedom from discrimination.
Okay. Yes.
Equality. Right to expression.
Oh, so now, right to expression and equality, right? Let me just leave all those big grammar and just reduce this. So, right to equality and then right to freedom of expression, right? And so this is different from civil rights. These are fundamental rights.
Fundamental rights, and the easiest way to just make a clear distinction is if you look at the Constitution, our grand norm. A whole chapter 4 is designated to fundamental rights.
Oh, wow. Okay. I was actually going to also ask to tell us the portion of the Constitution that has our rights and our responsibilities. I think they should be, because many people do not even know where this is, let alone have a copy of the Constitution in the first place. So I think that's important. Right.
Okay, so until we get there, now talking about the age thing. So the point I'm trying to make is, for fundamental rights, the moment you are born, you are entitled to those rights.
Okay.
So the government must not even legislate on them. In fact, even for that's the position. There are international treaties to the effect that the moment one is born, they're entitled to these fundamental rights. But then civil rights would vary depending on the provisions of the law of a particular jurisdiction. Yes.
Okay.
And as to whether age is a threshold, age is a qualification, if the intendment of the law wills it, then the law is going to expressly provide for the age.
Wow. Okay. Now I just know something. It's like let me not say what I have in mind, but yes, at least I'm more knowledgeable on these part of the Constitution and the rights and all of it. It was just social studies kind of thing. Thank you once again for accepting to share. We'll go on another music break, and when we're back, we'll look at the rest of the questions. Stay connected. You're still listening to Discussion Hour. You're welcome back for that music break. That was Get Up, Stand Up by Bob Marley and the Wailers. It's still Discussion Hour. We're talking about civil rights and civic responsibilities. I still have in the studio with me Shalom Okeke, sir. Barrister Shalom Okeke. I'm sorry for that mistake, sir. We have more questions. We have more questions for you. Yes, moving on. Now, are there consequences as regards over-exercising of one's rights? If I ever do it. Because I know there are some people that are so extra. They just feel that, come on, it's my right to do this.
Yeah.
It is my right. I have the right to do this. I have the right to do that. So are there consequences to over-exercising one's right?
Well, it depends on what amounts to over-exercising in this context.
Okay.
Yes. But I would want to start by quoting an American jurist, Oliver Wendell Holmes. And according to him, of course, he first of all appreciates the fact that we are humans, we are born with rights, inherent, inalienable, and so on and so forth. But then he makes a statement and says, my right or my liberty to swing my fist, clenched fist, ends at the tip of your nose. Or let me put it the other way around. Your liberty to swing, swinging of fist, right?
Yeah,
you
of
have
course.
a liberty to express yourself, to swing your fist, but that liberty ends at the tip of my nose. In other words,
It shouldn't touch the nose.
as you swing your fist, don't near me. Yes, but yes, and what he actually was trying to say is, in exercise of our rights, we should ensure that we do not violate the rights of others. So talking about exercising rights, you are free to exercise your rights to the extent that you do not, in such exercise, breach the right of another person. Because the moment you do that, then that is actionable. Let me give a typical example. I mean, this is a radio station, right? So you have this is exercising of right to expression, right to freedom of expression, right of the press, and so on. But then, if we, in exercise of this right, begin to defame someone else,
yeah.
now that is overboard. It's actionable. If in exercise of this right, one begins to maybe publish NDAs, non-disclosure agreement, that is a breach. That is actionable.
Yeah.
So the point is, talking about over-exercising, I mean, there's liberty, right? You have rights to exercise, but then the caveat there is that this exercise of rights should not be done in such a way that the rights of another person is being infringed or breached or violated. Yes.
Okay. Wow. Too much of everything is not good though. So as much as you know that you have rights to do certain things, you should also be able to apply a level of control.
That's
as
right.
not to breach another person's rights.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now wow. Police for don't carry plenty people. Okay, so yes, moving on. Are there importance of responsibilities, civic responsibilities? Are there importance of knowing your civil rights as well?
Yes, they are important. Of knowing the rights.
Of knowing the rights, yes. And the right itself, does it have an importance?
It has an importance.
Okay.
It has importance, like quite a number of them. But for starters, the obvious is that if I know my rights, then that right cannot be trampled upon.
Okay.
Because ignorance is one of the reasons why, even when someone is on the right, they are not expressive about it. They're on the right, their rights are being trampled upon, and they don't even know they have a cause of action. Yes, that is one. The second is back to Oliver Wendell Holmes. If I know my rights, I mean, I'm not the only one in the country, right?
Yeah.
So that means someone
else knows their rights.
And so it helps me not to breach theirs. Another thing with knowing rights is that the knowledge of rights, because for some of these rights, actually, they have certain, what would I call it, qualifications that deal with their limitations.
Yeah.
Some of these rights are limited. So when you know your rights, in the same vein, if that right has a limitation, for instance, or instances where it cannot be fully expressed, you definitely know that. And so at all points in time, you're on the right side of the law.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So yes, we're back to the Constitution question.
Okay.
So what section of the Constitution shows or explains all of this?
So like I had said, the fundamental rights, the whole of chapter 4, particularly I think around section 33 down to 43 or 45, 43, the whole of chapter 4, you have all these rights: right to life, liberty, freedom from torture, right to movement, and so on, all listed.
Okay.
They're all listed and explained. And in fact, the same chapter under section 46 talks about the fact that even if for any reason these rights above are being infringed, you actually have a remedy. So there's a whole, even before this, because Nigeria having this in the constitution, ratified some other international treaties. This idea of human rights cuts across nations.
Yeah.
So Nigeria and a couple of so many other nations have ratified quite a number of international treaties on fundamental rights.
Yeah.
Upon ratifying, we even domesticated in the law so that it becomes part and
of
parcel of our legal system. Yes. So back to the question, it's the whole of Chapter 4 of the 1999 Constitution.
Okay, so
Nigeria has amended.
This is like a take-home assignment for me. I'm going to read. I'm going to make it important and a mandate for myself to read the whole of Chapter 4 because I know it's actually funny sometimes when I find myself, especially in this our Lagos. It's only in Lagos you get to see things like this, and you hear somebody shouting, "I know my right."
Where is it?
And you get like in my mind,
Which
I'm like.
right?
What I just get to hear is I know my rights, and it ends there. You never get to hear in so chapter, in so section, blah 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 blah. And I keep wondering, okay, I know my rights. And because you're shouting, because you have a high pitched voice, and because you have big body, they think you actually know your right. And the way you're screaming, and the way you're really exercising the fact that yes, I know my right. And sometimes these things that we get to say, I know my right, it's actually not their right though. Sometimes it is not their right. And sometimes if you look at the situation critically, it's more like they being on the wrong side. They are the offenders, that they find trouble. But because of ignorance on the opposite party, they cannot even defend themselves, and you just hear stuff like, I know my right, I know my right. And it's always women shouting I know my right, So we're always the one shouting I know my right.
Always women.
And then you just see the person looking like, okay, so is it me that don't know my right? Well, it's what it is. It's the country we live in. So one last question before we go on the last music break and wrap up the show. Now, we've talked about there being consequences to trampling upon someone else's right. So that is in the process of you exercising your right. So what are the possible consequences then again if you're not actually exercising your right but then denying someone else of their right? For instance, a parent who doesn't provide a child with basic education, I think that is fundamental human right to education, or civil rights.
It's civil.
Civil. Shall rights. Well, yes. So I'm going to have to try to know the differences.
Okay.
So yes, civil right, education, and then because you feel the child is living with you, and then you don't provide the child with education, you don't provide the child with healthcare. Now you're not exercising your right, but you're denying someone else. So what are the possible consequences? Because I believe people need to know these things. Most people just do it and they feel they can actually get away with it. There's nothing you can do about it. And most cases, it is a scenario of the person who gets to suffer it is a minor. Someone who doesn't even... And again, yes, I'm sorry, I'm taking so long explaining this. In the society we live in, it is not very easy for you to walk into a police station and complain. It is not all that easy to walk. I think that should have been the normal thing to do. Right. Or any law enforcement agency walk there and just tell them that, come on, this is what I'm going through. But because of the kind of society we live in, we're not able to do all that. But what are the consequences of denying someone their right?
Okay. Denying.
Yes.
And not, okay. So this is... I would want to answer directly to the one you asked.
Okay. Yes. You can still give us Jara on top.
Okay, let me address that and then I go to the other. So something like education is not fundamental right.
Yes, it's civil.
It's civil. Things like that are on their own category, especially where it has to do with the minor.
Okay.
The courts are very intricate with handling issues related to children.
Okay.
Yes, there's something called the welfare principle where if it has to do with a child, the court is all, anxious about taking it and making sure things are done the right way. So issues like this are really treated on the merits of their own. Yes. What is that? You can have like 3 families and then the children are not going to school. The peculiarity of the circumstances would determine how to proceed.
Proceed, okay.
Yes. Because you might want to bring an action and then the parent is telling you they don't have the resources.
No, I'm talking about cases whereby it's just it's usually for people who are not biological children. Yes,
okay.
Because I know that there are cases where the parent could say, "Oh, I don't have the resources, and that's why I can't really afford it, so they should just stay." But I'm talking about cases whereby you have someone living with you. Your own kids are going to school. They have, every other thing a child should have. But there's this one person who, instead of going to school, is maybe hawking or staying in the shop or doing all the hard work without any form of education, without any form of good clothing or feeding or health. Nothing. And that is because the person is just living with you. You're not the biological parent. So what exactly should be done? Most times, these children are helpless. They don't have anywhere to go to. They don't have anyone to. Except maybe one day, God just sends a helper and then sees them and then pick them up. And, sometimes they don't even get anyone to help them. They, in turn, get into the wrong hands and then more social issues begin to occur from there. And that's another topic for another day. But then, what are the consequences? What should be done? What can be done in cases like this?
So, like I've said, it depends on the peculiarity of the case.
Yeah.
Depends on it. And if the law does not expressly provide for something, it is indirectly not imposing an obligation with regards to that. So if you have, for instance, the civil rights thing to education of a child, such rights are usually implied to the parent. Then it does not mean that, of course, you cannot extend it to some other person living under your care. Yes. However, the circumstances relating or giving rise to how the child came into your care should also be taken into consideration.
Oh, okay.
Yes, because if you brought this child to train them, unquote, train, right?
With a promise to train.
With a promise to train, then certainly you owe some reasonable degree of responsibility with regards to bringing them up even academically. Yeah.
Wow.
And so when we have such issues, because there is no very fixed course of action per se, personally, I wouldn't say going to court is what would cure it. However, in the AG's office, there is a whole department on children at Attorney General's office. So such offices are the ones who actually sit to hear such issues and resolve them.
Okay. Okay. We'll go on another music break, and this is going to be the last one on the show. Stay connected, and when we're back, we'll wrap up the show very quickly. You're still listening to Lagoon Radio. I'm a kid when it got the winner, don't quit on the cells. I just tried. I wanted to resist the urge to sing that part of the song, but I couldn't. You're welcome back from that music break. That's Freedom, obviously, by Beyonce. And you're still listening to Discussion Hour on Lagoon Radio. We're broadcasting live from the Archbishop's Palace in Marina, Lagos. We're talking about your civil rights and civic responsibilities as a dear citizen of Nigeria. When somebody, and I have a legal practitioner in front of me that has been schooling me since I will not lie. See, if you see my note, you have no idea. So you can also call me a legal practitioner because I've passed through one of the best that I know. Clap for me. Okay, so this is me just goofing around, but yes, I've actually known more things that I didn't know before. Things I thought were probably shallow, but yes, they're very, very important, especially when you're talking about rights and responsibilities. And also, I now know that in the portion of the 1999 amended Constitution, you will find it in chapter 4. I'm doing well.
Very well.
I'm doing well. Yes, chapter 4 of the 1999 amended Constitution of the Federal
1999 Constitution
is it amended
of the Republic
of
the Federal Republic
Republic
of
of
Nigeria as
as
amended.
amended.
Yes.
Okay, let me say that again. 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended.
Okay.
Kai, please. Oh, thank you. I just had to do that. And yes, I know now that there's a difference between civil rights and fundamental rights. So the right to education and right to healthcare and the right to what else? Right to vote are civil rights.
Yes.
And then fundamental rights, right to live. Life, not like live. Oh, so what's the difference? Life, live.
The terminology used in the law is right to life. So when we talk about, right to live is saying you have the right to live. Like, you have the right to exist. That is right. But when we talk about right to life, it's broader. We're talking about a couple of things. One, of course, you have the right to exist, to live. Mm-hmm. Two, right to life also entails the law prohibits someone else from taking your life.
Okay.
To a larger extent, right to life could also mean right to livelihood. So right to life is the bigger picture. When you say right to live, you are
narrowing it down. Oh, yes. Okay. So now I just know another thing, that there is a difference between right to life and right to live. So yes, right to life, that is fundamental right. And what other rights is fundamental?
Freedom from torture.
Torture, okay. Speech.
Discrimination.
Speech
right
to
expression.
Expression, okay. So that's for the fundamental rights. And at the beginning of the show, I took a very short definition. I'll take that again. Civil rights are an essential component of democracy. They are guarantees of social opportunities and protection under the law, regardless of race, religion, or other characteristics. And civic responsibility are tasks bestowed upon citizens by the government to ensure a balance between protection and allegiance. And I think an example of that, if I heard correctly, was what's that thing you said about police?
Cooperating with law enforcement.
Cooperating with law enforcement. Okay. I shall know that. When you said law enforcement, first thing that entered my head was police. So, cooperating with law enforcement. Okay. To do what?
To uphold the law, to uphold order.
Okay. Guarantee safety.
Yes.
In any form you can, just to cooperate with them.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and that includes giving them information when necessary.
Where
required. Okay, so
of course, making sure you don't incriminate yourself, because
I thought we were giving information.
No, yes,
so what if the information we're about to give also would incriminate you? I mean, the person that is the informant.
So if it's incriminating you, then you are probably a suspect because the law is quite clear. The law does not say you should go. In fact, in the Evidence Act, but today is not about the Evidence Act.
But you could just tell us
yes,
small.
In the Evidence Act, when you eventually come to trial, in court, you have a right, quote unquote, not to make incriminating statements on yourself, so far you do not purge, like you do not lie to the court, you don't commit perjury. But the point I'm making here is, these things happen. The police comes, they are trying to make investigations. For instance, the fire outbreak that just happened.
Yeah.
So it's possible that even after the fire service, they go and do their thing. The police might want to know what happened. They come around, and then, I mean, if they try to ask questions, it's not lawful to deny them that, as a good citizen, you are supposed to cooperate with them. So if
Yeah.
they're asking simple questions as to were you here, what do you think happened?
How it happened.
Yeah, feel free to tell
But if
them
it's
what
you, then
happened.
ask back wire.
Then they should not meet you there.
Just pray they don't find you. Okay, because if it's you that spark wire, they now ask you. You now say it's not you, it's perjury. You have spoiled something. Even if it's not in court, but at least you just lied. Come on, that's another thing.
But is not for today.
And yes, not talk for today. Because I was going to say that. See, I'm promising everybody, I'm bringing you back.
Yes. Okay.
I'm bringing you back. You're coming back.
Okay.
And yes, because I trust me when I say I actually enjoyed today's episode. And I'm sure our listeners and our viewers did too. So basically, before we call the show a wrap, can we get I don't like calling it last words now.
Okay.
But an admonition. Yes, that's the
Okay.
let me use that English to sugarcoat it. But it's supposed to be last words though, because it's the end of the show. But I don't like calling it last words.
Okay. Well, I'm an advocate for actual change,
Okay.
especially in this era of social media. People can be online in the comfort of their bed, uploading stuff
Yeah.
online, and you know where I'm headed politically.
Mm-hmm.
You are saying, 2023, we are going to change the government, critiquing, but then they don't actually do the needful. And so within the immediate context of our discussion,
Yeah.
civic competence, civic responsibility, and democracy, especially as we approach next year, people should go get their PVCs.
Very important.
Very, very important. It's as important as the president himself.
Mm-hmm.
Because one might think, it's insignificant. When we get, they will still rig. If everyone or a good number of us do this, you do the relevant thing, you register on the said day, we all go to the good thing. The Electoral Act has even been, the amendment has been assented to, and then we do the relevant thing. Would do better in this country. Things would be better than we even thought they would ever be.
Yeah.
So the admonition, since you say it's not last word, is that as it has the very first, as far as I'm concerned, the very first responsibility
Yeah.
is to involve in the social contract, which is to partake in the voting that puts up leaders there who eventually decide the running of the country.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so very much for joining us on this show. I really, really appreciate your coming. I appreciate your time and your presence. And yes, like he said, 2023 is in fact, it's just behind us. It's really close. It's not as far as we think it is. Even if it's next year, we have less than a year to the general election. So you know what to do. Perform your civic responsibility. Get your voter's card. Vote for the candidate. The candidate. Yes, not a candidate. The candidate.
Right.
We all have that one person we want to vote for when we eventually see this. Try as much as possible not to sell your votes. Don't sell your rights. And this is where I call it a wrap. This is where I wrap up the show. So always keep listening, keep following, keep sending in your comments. The show ends here on radio. It doesn't end here on our social media platforms. It doesn't end here outside the studios. So you can keep talking about it. This is one thing that many people try as much as possible not to talk about because they don't have in-depth knowledge of what their rights and their responsibilities are. So now that you do, spread the word. From my corner, it is have a lovely, lovely evening. And at 6 p.m., we have the Lenten diet. We're still in the season of Lent. Keep sharing love, keep spreading love. From me to you is bye-bye.